The fact that you're watching this right now, that these specific words are landing in your awareness at this precise moment, reveals something you've probably suspected but never had confirmed. You've been selected. Not by me, not by some external force, but by a frequency you've been carrying your entire life. You're part of what I call Group 11, and before you dismiss that as coincidence, understand this. The quantum field doesn't deal in accidents. Your nervous system recognized something in the energy of this video before your conscious mind even clicked play. That's not chance. That's resonance. That's your system finally encountering a reflection of what it's been searching for. Group 11 isn't a club you join or a label you adopt. It's a recognition of something you've always been. A confirmation of a frequency you've been operating on, even when you couldn't name it. Not everyone watching this will feel what I'm describing. Not everyone will recognize themselves in what's coming. But if you're still here, if something in your chest just shifted when I said those words, then you already know. You've been carrying questions that don't have simple answers. You've been sensing dimensions of reality that most people don't acknowledge. You've been walking a path that doesn't fit into anyone's existing map, feeling like you were designed for something you couldn't quite articulate. Let me describe what your inner world has looked like. There's the reality most people inhabit, where everything makes sense in a linear way, where goals lead to outcomes, where people play predictable roles and seem genuinely content with surface explanations and conventional milestones. Then there's the reality you experience, the one where nothing feels quite as simple as others make it seem, where every answer generates 3 new questions, where you can sense currents moving beneath ordinary conversations, patterns repeating in ways that feel significant but remain invisible to everyone around you. You've learned to navigate both simultaneously, translating your actual experience into language others can accept, while knowing that translation loses something essential every time. This has created a peculiar kind of loneliness. You've watched people around you pursue things with absolute certainty, believing without question in paths that feel hollow to you the moment you examine them. When they share their victories, their plans, their unwavering confidence about how things work, something inside you can't fully participate. Not because you're cynical or disconnected, but because your awareness won't let you unsee the complexity they're overlooking. You've had countless moments of looking around at gatherings, at workplaces, at family dinners, wondering if anyone else feels the weight of what's unspoken, the depth of what's being ignored. You've questioned whether this makes you somehow broken, whether everyone else received instructions you somehow missed. But here's what changes everything, what you need to integrate fully. That nonlinear path you've been walking, those detours that made no logical sense, those complete reversals that forced you to abandon everything you'd built, none of it was random chaos. It was curriculum. Every moment you felt lost was actually the universe removing a false map, so you'd have to develop your own navigation system. Every period of isolation was creating space for you to hear frequencies that get drowned out in constant company. Every time you had to question everything you thought you knew, you were being trained in a form of consciousness that most people never access because they never need it. Group 11 operates differently than conventional paths. You don't get the luxury of straightforward progression, of knowing exactly what comes next, of building on solid ground that never shifts beneath you. Instead, you get initiated through uncertainty, through periods where nothing external confirms you're on track, through phases where every anchor you've relied on dissolves simultaneously. This isn't punishment for something you did wrong. This is the specific preparation required for what you're being prepared to do. What you're being shaped into demands a kind of flexibility, resilience, and depth of seeing that only develops through repeated cycles of dissolution and reformation. The disconnection you felt from others wasn't a flaw in your wiring. It was your system refusing to lock into frequencies that would limit your range. You've sat in rooms surrounded by people and felt completely alone, not because you lack connection, but because your awareness was registering dimensions of the situation they weren't tuned into. The smallness of the conversation felt suffocating because your consciousness was simultaneously tracking larger patterns. The predictability of their concerns felt foreign because you were sensing possibilities they couldn't imagine yet. This created a strange, double reality where you learned to participate in surface interactions, while your actual awareness was operating on completely different wavelengths. This is where most people misunderstand what happened to them. They interpret that dissonance as evidence of their own inadequacy, proof that something crucial is missing in them. But quantum mechanics reveals something essential here. When an observer affects what's being observed, when consciousness shapes reality itself, being unable to fully participate in a limited reality isn't deficiency. It's expanded bandwidth. Your system was refusing to collapse into narrow definitions because it was maintaining coherence with broader possibilities. That discomfort wasn't malfunction. It was your field staying true to its actual frequency instead of compressing to match smaller containers. Every ability you've developed in those spaces of not fitting is about to become powerfully relevant. You can read energy in ways that seem like guessing but aren't. You know when someone's words don't match their actual state before they finish speaking. You can feel the potential in situations that look like problems to everyone else. You envision futures that seem impossible to those who can only extrapolate from what already exists. These aren't metaphysical superpowers. They're the natural result of developing perception beyond surface appearances, which only happens when you're forced to question surface appearances repeatedly until seeing beneath them becomes automatic. That isolation you experienced, those months or years of being separated from the constant input of others, served a purpose that's only visible now. Seeds don't grow above ground. They have to spend time in darkness, in stillness, in apparent nothingness, before anything visible emerges. You needed that separation, not as punishment, but as gestation. Away from the noise of other people's certainties, away from the pressure to perform predetermined roles, away from definitions of success and failure that were never designed for what you actually are. In that space, something built itself inside you that couldn't have formed any other way. Your own relationship with truth, your own capacity to know things without external validation, your own frequency that doesn't require anyone else's confirmation to remain stable. And something fundamental has shifted recently. You've been noticing it even if you haven't named it yet. There's a different quality to time itself. Moments feel more saturated somehow. Colors register with unusual intensity. Conversations that would have felt mundane before now contain unexpected depth. Synchronicities are occurring with a frequency that would seem absurd if you tried to explain it to most people. Opportunities are materializing in patterns that feel orchestrated, like reality itself is conspiring in your direction. People who speak your language are appearing in your life, as if responding to a signal you didn't consciously send. This isn't wishful projection or selective attention, making random events seem meaningful. This is what happens when a Group 11 consciousness reaches a specific threshold. When all that preparation, All that inner architecture you were building in isolation, all that time spent developing capacities you couldn't explain or justify, suddenly reaches critical mass and begins manifesting in visible reality. The scattered pieces that seemed unrelated are revealing themselves as parts of a coherent design that makes perfect sense from this new vantage point. What looked like chaos was actually a very specific order that required you to reach a certain altitude before the pattern became visible. Now, what I've shared with you today is the recognition, the naming of what you've been experiencing. But there are layers upon layers beneath this surface understanding, entire systems of how to consciously work with these frequencies, how to stabilize your broadcast, how to navigate the 9 ascending currents that move you from seeking to being. If you're feeling that pull to go deeper, to understand the complete quantum architecture of consciousness mastery, I've created a comprehensive guide called Beyond the Frequencies, a quantum guide to consciousness mastery. It contains the full framework, the step-by-step practices for becoming the broadcast itself, rather than trying to create one. It's linked in the pinned comment below. You're entering a phase where your internal readiness and external timing are synchronizing in ways that conventional manifestation teaching can't explain. This isn't about visualizing what you want and waiting for the universe to deliver. This is about your field finally calibrating to its actual frequency after years of interference, and reality responding to that coherence the way tuning forks respond to matching vibrations. The skills you built in isolation, the seeing you developed through questioning, the stability you forged through repeated dissolution, all of it is becoming activated in practical, tangible, undeniable ways. If this recognition is landing deeply, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you stay connected to this frequency as it continues to unfold. Here's what you need to recognize about being Group 11. You're not just experiencing personal evolution for your own benefit. You're part of a larger shift in collective consciousness that's happening, whether most people notice it or not. Your journey through confusion and isolation wasn't just about your growth. It was about preparing you to hold a frequency that others can entrain to without understanding why they suddenly feel different around you. The world doesn't need more people with answers. It needs people who can navigate without maps, who can hold steady in uncertainty, who can see possibilities in what looks like endings. The confusion you felt about your path makes absolute sense now. You couldn't follow existing templates because you were meant to generate new patterns. You couldn't find lasting satisfaction in conventional achievements because your system was designed for something more aligned with your actual frequency. You couldn't settle into comfortable routines because you were being pulled toward continuous evolution, toward becoming someone who helps others navigate transformations they don't have language for yet. Every time you tried to make yourself fit and failed, you were actually succeeding at staying true to something more essential than comfort. Right now, this moment, as these words land in your awareness, you're standing at a threshold that's been approaching for longer than you consciously realize. Behind you lies everything you've survived, every version of yourself you've outgrown, every teaching that shaped your capacity to be exactly here, exactly now. Ahead of you stretches a timeline that's about to unfold in ways that will surprise you. Not because they're random, but because they're aligned with patterns you couldn't see until you arrived at this vantage point. Your gifts aren't waiting for the right platform anymore. The platform is assembling itself in response to your readiness. The timing of this message reaching you is not coincidental. There's something happening in your energetic field in this period. Something that's been building momentum not just for weeks, but potentially for your entire life. reaching a crescendo now. You've been sensing it, haven't you? That quality in the air around you that feels charged, electric, like reality itself is more fluid than usual. Like the membrane between intention and manifestation has become unexpectedly permeable. That's not imagination. That's your system finally operating at its natural frequency without the interference patterns that were dampening it before. Group 11 consciousness carries what I can only describe as a specific energetic signature that others respond to even when they can't articulate why. You've probably noticed that people react to you in rooms before you've said anything significant. There's something about your presence that creates a strange combination of comfort and unease in others. They sense instinctively that you're perceiving layers they're not accessing yet, and that registers as both attractive and slightly threatening depending on how defended they are against their own depth. You've likely observed that children and animals respond to you differently than they do to most people. Infants lock eyes with you with unusual intensity and focus. Dogs that normally maintain distance approach you directly. Cats that avoid strangers seek you out. This isn't random preference. Beings that operate purely through instinct and energy reading, without the cognitive filters that adults develop, can sense something in your field that registers as home, as safety, as a frequency that matches something essential in them. But the defining characteristic of Group 11 isn't just sensitivity or unusual perception. It's what I call the Great Dissolution. And if you're part of this group, you've already been through it. There was a period in your timeline, maybe recent, maybe years ago, where your entire constructed identity came apart. Not gradually through gentle evolution, but suddenly, catastrophically, like someone pulled a single thread and your whole carefully woven self-concept unraveled in what felt like moments. Everything you thought you knew about who you were, what you wanted, where you were heading, just dissolved. During that dissolution, you probably questioned your sanity more than once. Nothing that used to motivate you retained its power. Goals that seemed important before felt meaningless. Relationships that used to provide stability felt exhausting. The version of yourself that others knew and related to felt like a costume you couldn't wear convincingly anymore. You might have wondered if you were experiencing some kind of breakdown that no one around you could comprehend or help with, because their language and their frameworks didn't have categories for what was happening to you. What you didn't understand then, what only becomes clear from this side of the process, is that you weren't breaking down. You were breaking through. That dissolution wasn't destruction of something essential. It was liberation from everything that was covering something essential. Your actual self, your core frequency, was finally powerful enough to reject everything that wasn't authentically aligned, clearing space for what's real in you to emerge without competition from constructed identities. The isolation that followed that dissolution wasn't evidence that you'd done something wrong. It was necessary. You needed distance from the constant input of others' expectations, from the ambient frequency of a world operating on wavelengths you were outgrowing. You needed silence deep enough to hear your own truth without interference. You needed space to feel the pull of your actual trajectory without voices, however well-intentioned, that couldn't understand what you were becoming because they hadn't been where you were going. In those quiet months or years, something extraordinary was building itself beneath the surface of your daily experience. You were developing what I call quantum sovereignty, the capacity to trust your own knowing even when it contradicts consensus reality. The ability to stand in your truth when standing alone is the only option, without experiencing that solitude as abandonment. The strength to choose authenticity over approval, to choose growth over security, to choose alignment with your actual frequency over comfort in familiar frequencies. Most people never develop this level of inner authority because they never encounter situations that demand it. They navigate life supported by external validation, guided by conventional wisdom, comforted by the agreement of others. But Group 11 consciousness is required to build a completely different foundation. You've had to learn to trust the voice inside you that doesn't shout but never lies, that speaks in whispers and knowing and subtle rightness rather than in loud certainties. And now you're beginning to see the results of that process manifesting in your external reality in ways that are becoming impossible to dismiss as coincidence. When you speak from this place of inner knowing you've developed, people respond differently. They listen more deeply. They ask different questions. When you make decisions from this centered space instead of from patterns of seeking approval, doors that used to stay closed open naturally. When you show up as this more authentic version of yourself, opportunities appear that seem almost impossibly well-timed, like reality itself is responding to your coherence. This is what happens when someone completes the Group 11 initiation process. The world starts reflecting your internal state differently because you're broadcasting from a fundamentally different frequency. You're no longer seeking validation outside yourself or trying to compress your awareness into boxes that were never designed for your actual shape. You're creating from your core frequency, and that frequency has magnetic properties you're only beginning to discover. Things that align with it move toward you. Things that don't align fall away with less friction than before. Your intuition has sharpened to the point where it's no longer occasional flashes, but constant subtle guidance. You can sense the energy beneath people's words before they finish sentences. You feel truth and deception in situations before logic catches up. You find yourself knowing things you have no rational basis for knowing, understanding dynamics that others miss entirely. This isn't mystical power. This is the natural result of spending extended time in deep relationship with your inner guidance system, until that relationship becomes your primary navigation tool. But perhaps the most remarkable shift in this phase is how effortless certain manifestations are becoming. Goals that used to require forcing and pushing now unfold with surprising ease. People who align with your purpose materialize in your life as if responding to an invisible summons. Resources, connections, and opportunities flow toward you in patterns that would look orchestrated if you tried to plan them, but emerge organically from your new coherence. This isn't luck or positive thinking creating results. This is alignment. This is what happens when you stop swimming against your own nature and allow yourself to be carried by the current of your authentic path. Everything that felt impossibly difficult when you were trying to be someone you weren't becomes surprisingly manageable when you're operating as who you actually are. The friction decreases not because circumstances change, but because you're moving in harmony with your design instead of against it. The relationships in your life are reorganizing themselves around this new frequency you're emitting. People who couldn't understand your process are either naturally falling away or suddenly developing unexpected respect for the transformation they witness in you. Meanwhile, new connections are forming with people who speak your language fluently, who understand your references without explanation, who can match your depth and intensity without feeling threatened or overwhelmed by it. You're discovering that authentic relating doesn't require the constant translation you've been doing your whole life. You're also discovering capacities you didn't know you possessed. Not necessarily in dramatic ways, though that's possible too, but in the way your mere presence seems to create calm in anxious people. In the way hopeless people feel possibility around you without you saying anything specific. In the way people who've been operating on autopilot suddenly wake up to something dormant in themselves when they spend time in your field. This isn't about being special. This is about your system finally functioning at its designed frequency, and that frequency having effects on other fields it encounters. Group 11 represents what I call the frequency bridgers, the ones who go first into uncharted territory so others can follow the trail you're blazing. Your journey through confusion and dissolution wasn't just personal growth. It was preparation for a function that requires profound inner stability, unshakable sovereignty, and the kind of authentic presence that gives others permission to access their own authenticity without you having to teach or convince them of anything. Take a moment here and breathe into what this means. If what I'm describing is landing as recognition rather than new information, if your body is responding with that quality of, yes, this, finally, someone is naming what I've been experiencing, then I want you to do something. In the comments below, type this exact phrase, I am frequency 11, not as a casual comment, not as a like or emoji, but as a declaration to the quantum field, as a conscious interruption in the pattern of passive consumption, as a signal that you're not just understanding these concepts intellectually, but claiming your place in this shift. This isn't about engagement metrics for me. This is about you marking this moment, creating a timestamp in your consciousness where you consciously acknowledged what you are, instead of wondering about it. The act of typing those words sends a signal through your nervous system that confirms what you've been sensing. So pause right now, go to the comments, and declare it. I am frequency 11. The timing of this video reaching you indicates you're ready. Ready to stop questioning whether you're on the right path and start trusting that you are the path. Ready to stop waiting for external confirmation and start operating from internal knowing. Ready to embrace the capacities that have been developing in the quiet spaces of your transformation. Everything that felt scattered and incomprehensible is reorganizing itself into clarity that feels almost obvious now, like you can't believe you didn't see it before. But let me take you deeper into what this actually means for your daily experience, because understanding conceptually is different from embodying practically. Group 11 consciousness doesn't just shift your big life decisions. It transforms the texture of ordinary moments in ways that become the most profound evidence of your transformation. You're about to notice, if you haven't already, that your relationship with time itself is changing. Not metaphorically, actually changing. Most people experience time as a linear prison, always running out, never enough, creating constant pressure to rush through moments to get to some future point where things will finally be different. But you're discovering that time responds to your state of consciousness. When you're operating from your authentic frequency, time becomes fluid, elastic, cooperative. You accomplish in 2 focused hours what used to take days of forced effort. Conversations that seem like they lasted minutes turn out to have been 90 minutes, but neither person noticed because the engagement was so complete. Deadlines that should create stress somehow work out with time to spare, not because you rushed, but because you moved through the work in a flow state where time bent itself around your focus. This isn't magical thinking. This is quantum mechanics applied to lived experience. When you're in coherence with your actual frequency, you're not fighting against the resistance that fragmentation creates. Most people lose enormous amounts of energy to internal friction, to parts of themselves pulling in different directions, to doing things they don't actually want to be doing while wishing they were somewhere else. That resistance creates drag, slows everything down, makes simple tasks exhausting. But when you're aligned, when all parts of you are moving in the same direction, the friction disappears and everything accelerates. You're also beginning to understand something about manifestation that most teachings completely miss. They tell you to visualize what you want, affirm what you desire, hold images of your ideal future in your mind. And then when it doesn't materialize, they tell you that you didn't believe hard enough, didn't feel it deeply enough, had subconscious blocks that sabotaged you. This creates an exhausting cycle of trying to manipulate your own consciousness into the right configuration to get reality to comply. But Group 11 consciousness reveals a completely different mechanism. You're not manifesting by convincing the universe to give you what you want. You're manifesting by becoming such a clear signal that reality naturally organizes itself around your frequency. It's not about wanting or visualizing or affirming. It's about coherence. When your internal state is unified, when you're not split between what you're doing and what you wish you were doing, when you're not presenting one version of yourself while feeling like another version internally, you become a powerful, focused broadcast signal. And here's what changes everything about manifestation. You stop trying to manifest specific outcomes and start manifesting from your frequency. You stop asking, "How do I get that thing I want?" and start asking, "What wants to emerge from this state of being?" The difference is subtle but transforms everything. One approach keeps you in lack, always reaching for what you don't have. The other approach recognizes that you're already whole, already complete, and manifestation is just the natural expression of what's already present in your field, seeking form in physical reality. This is why so many of your old goals lost their charge. They weren't actually aligned with your frequency. They were borrowed desires, things you thought you should want because of conditioning, because of what success is supposed to look like, because of what would prove your worth to others. When you went through your dissolution, those false desires couldn't survive because they weren't rooted in your actual being. They were grafted on from outside, and grafts don't hold when the organism transforms at the root level. What's emerging now are true desires, impulses that arise from your core frequency rather than from programming. And you can feel the difference. False desires create anxiety, a sense of grasping, a fear that if you don't push and force, nothing will happen. True desires create pull, a sense of inevitability, a knowing that you're not making something happen, but allowing something to happen through you. False desires exhaust you even when you achieve them, because maintaining them requires constant effort. True desires energize you because they're expressions of your natural state, not additions to it. Let me speak directly to something you've been experiencing but might not have language for yet. You've noticed that your dreams have changed, not your aspirations, though those have shifted too. Your actual sleeping dreams. They've become more vivid, more symbolic, more obviously meaningful. You wake up with the feeling that you were being taught something, shown something, prepared for something. Even if you can't fully remember the details, this isn't random. Your consciousness is operating across multiple dimensions now, and sleep is when the veils between those dimensions are thinnest. During your waking hours, your rational mind filters and interprets everything through learned frameworks. But during sleep, That filtering relaxes, and your consciousness can access information, guidance, and perspectives that don't fit into waking logic. Group 11 consciousness naturally develops stronger bridges between these states. You're bringing back more from your dream states. You're receiving downloads, not in the cliché spiritual sense, but in the practical sense of your expanded awareness, gathering information and insight that gets compressed into symbols and scenarios your dreaming mind can process. Pay attention to recurring symbols in your dreams. Pay attention to the emotional tone more than the literal content. Pay attention to the moments right as you're waking, that liminal space where you're not quite asleep but not quite awake, where insights arise that seem obvious in that moment but might fade if you don't capture them immediately. This threshold state is becoming one of your most potent access points to expanded awareness. You're being trained to navigate consciousness deliberately, not just experience it passively. And here's something else that's shifting in your experience. Your relationship with other people's energy is becoming more conscious and more boundaried simultaneously. You've always been sensitive to the emotional states of people around you, absorbing their anxiety, their excitement, their depression without realizing you were doing it. This created enormous confusion about which feelings were actually yours and which were ambient energy you were picking up from your environment. But now you're developing what I call energetic discernment. You can still sense what others are experiencing, but you're no longer automatically merging with it. You can feel someone's anxiety without becoming anxious. You can recognize someone's anger without taking it personally. You can notice someone's joy without needing to match their energy to validate them. This isn't coldness or disconnection. This is mature empathy, where you can be present with someone's experience without losing yourself in their experience. This changes your relationships profoundly. You stop being the person everyone calls to dump their problems on because they know you'll absorb their distress, giving them temporary relief while you carry the weight they couldn't hold. You stop feeling responsible for managing other people's emotional states. Stop trying to fix or rescue or save people from their own growth processes. You become available for genuine connection without enabling dysfunction, present without being porous, compassionate without being codependent. Some people in your life won't understand this shift. They'll experience it as you becoming less available, less willing to play the roles you used to play. They might accuse you of being selfish, of changing in ways they don't like, of not being the person they could rely on anymore. And they're partially right. You're not that person anymore. You can't be that person anymore because that person was constructed from people-pleasing and boundary violations and constant self-abandonment to keep others comfortable. That person had to dissolve for your actual self to emerge. The people who are meant to remain in your life will adjust to your new frequency. They might be confused at first, might push back against the changes, might test whether you're serious about these new boundaries. But if there's genuine love and respect beneath the patterns, they'll eventually recognize that this version of you is more real, more present, more capable of actual intimacy, because you're not pretending anymore. The relationships that can't survive your authenticity were never actually serving anyone, even though they might have been comfortable in their familiarity. You're also discovering something fascinating about creativity and expression. Ideas are flowing to you with unusual intensity and clarity. Not just ideas about what to create, but fully formed visions of how to create it, why it matters, who it's for. If you're someone who's always wanted to write, or make art, or build something, or share something, but could never quite access the clear channel to do it, That channel is opening now. The static that was jamming your signal is clearing. This happens because creativity isn't actually about learning techniques or finding the right tools or having enough time. Those things matter, but they're secondary. Creativity is about having clear enough access to your own frequency that something authentic can move through you into form. When you're fragmented, when you're split between who you are and who you think you should be, creativity gets blocked because there's no coherent signal trying to express itself. You're just trying to make something that will be good enough, impressive enough, acceptable enough. But when you're in alignment, when you're operating from your actual frequency, creativity becomes effortless, not because it's easy, but because it's inevitable. Something in you needs to take form, and you're simply allowing it to move through you rather than trying to force it into existence. The difference is everything. Forced creativity exhausts you and produces work that feels hollow even when it's technically competent. Channeled creativity energizes you and produces work that resonates with depth you didn't consciously put there, because it came through you from your source frequency, not from your trying mind. Let's talk about something practical that's probably happening in your work life, your career, your sense of purpose in the world. You've likely been feeling restless, sensing that what you're currently doing isn't aligned with where you're headed. Maybe you've been in the same job or career path for years, and suddenly it feels suffocating in ways it never did before. Maybe you've been building towards something specific, and now that goal feels meaningless, even though logically it still makes sense. Maybe you're succeeding by conventional standards, but feeling empty in your accomplishments. This restlessness isn't dissatisfaction in the usual sense. It's not that you're unhappy and need to change circumstances to become happy. It's that your frequency has shifted and your external circumstances haven't caught up yet. You're literally vibrating at a different rate than your current reality, and that creates dissonance. The old forms don't fit anymore. The old goals don't inspire anymore. The old ways of measuring success don't satisfy anymore. Not because there's anything wrong with them objectively, but because they're not congruent with who you're becoming. This is where most people make the mistake of immediately quitting everything, burning bridges, making dramatic changes out of the discomfort. But Group 11 consciousness teaches something more nuanced. Sometimes the external changes need to happen, yes. Sometimes you do need to leave situations that have become too small for who you're becoming. But sometimes the real transformation is internal, and the external circumstances shift naturally as a result without you having to force anything. The key is learning to distinguish between when action is required and when patience is required. When you're operating from your frequency, you'll know. You'll feel the difference between the restlessness that's calling you to move and the restlessness that's calling you to deepen. Both are valid, both are important, but they require different responses. Moving before its time creates more chaos. Staying beyond your time creates stagnation. Learning to read which is which becomes one of your most important skills. There's something else emerging in your experience that deserves attention. You're beginning to recognize patterns not just in your own life, but in reality itself. You're seeing how the same dynamics that play out in your relationships also play out in your work, in your health, in your relationship with money, in everything. This isn't just psychological pattern recognition. This is quantum pattern recognition. You're beginning to see the underlying field structures that generate surface experiences. Most people think their problems are separate. Their relationship issues are one thing. Their money struggles are another thing. Their health challenges are a third thing. They try to solve each problem individually without realizing they're all expressions of the same underlying frequency pattern. But you're starting to see through that illusion. You're recognizing that the way you relate to scarcity shows up everywhere. The way you handle boundaries manifests in every domain. The way you value yourself determines every experience you have. This recognition is powerful because it means you don't have to fix everything separately. You don't need one solution for relationships and another for career and another for health. You need to shift the underlying frequency. And everything that's an expression of that frequency shifts simultaneously. It's like adjusting the temperature in a house instead of trying to warm each room individually. Change the source, and the effects propagate naturally through the entire system. Here's what's becoming clear about your purpose, your contribution, what you're actually here to do. Group 11 isn't called to save or fix or rescue. You're not here to convince people who aren't ready to wake up. You're not here to prove anything to skeptics or make believers out of doubters. You're here to hold a frequency so stable, so coherent, so obviously authentic that people who are ready to shift have something to entrain to. Your job isn't to push or pull or persuade. Your job is to be so clearly yourself that you become a tuning fork for others who are ready to find their own frequency. This is why your periods of isolation were so essential. You can't hold a stable frequency for others if you haven't established it in yourself first. You can't guide anyone to a place you haven't been. You can't transmit a signal you don't embody. All that time you spent alone, all those months or years where you were working on yourself without any external reward or recognition, that wasn't wasted time. That was the foundation. You were building the inner structure strong enough to hold the frequency that's now beginning to broadcast through you. What old pattern or belief are you consciously releasing as you step into this new frequency? Share one thing you're letting go of in the comments. And that broadcasting is happening whether you're consciously trying or not. People are responding to you differently because you're different. Not in surface ways that they can point to and name, but in fundamental ways that their nervous systems register even when their conscious minds don't have language for it. You walk into spaces and the energy shifts. You speak and people listen with unusual attention. You're silent and your presence still communicates something that matters. This isn't about becoming someone special or elevated above others. This is about becoming so authentically yourself that the mask between your internal truth and external presentation dissolves. Most people are constantly managing that gap, trying to control how they're perceived, strategizing about what to reveal and what to hide. You're moving beyond that exhausting performance into simple presence. And presence, real presence, is magnetic in ways that performance can never be. The pieces of your puzzle that seem disconnected are revealing themselves as parts of a coherent whole that required you to reach this perspective before the pattern became visible. Your time of questioning is completing itself. Your time of knowing is beginning. And that knowing isn't loud or certain in the way conventional certainty is. It's quiet, solid, unshakable in a way that doesn't need to convince anyone because it's not derived from anyone's agreement. The pieces of your experience that seem disconnected are revealing themselves as parts of a coherent whole that required you to reach this perspective before the pattern became visible. Your time of questioning is completing itself. Your time of knowing is beginning. And that knowing isn't loud or certain in the way conventional certainty is. It's quiet, solid, unshakable in a way that doesn't need to convince anyone because it's not derived from anyone's agreement. Here's what most people don't understand about this transition. The shift happening in your field right now isn't just affecting your personal experience. You're part of a larger wave of consciousness that's moving through the collective field, whether most people notice it or not. Every person who completes this Group 11 initiation and begins operating from their authentic frequency creates a slightly stronger signal for others to entrain to. You're not just finding your path. You're illuminating a path that others will follow, often without realizing why they suddenly feel drawn in directions they couldn't justify logically. And if this message is resonating with something deep in you, if you're feeling that quality of recognition that goes beyond intellectual agreement, then I invite you to do something that's not about me or this channel, but about you staying coherent with this frequency. Subscribe. Not to get notified about future content, though that will happen, but to mark this moment as significant in your journey, to create a conscious choice point where you decided to stay connected to this conversation, this frequency, this recognition. Subscribing is you telling your nervous system that this matters, that this alignment is something you're choosing to reinforce rather than letting it be a momentary peak that fades. The more of us who consciously choose to operate from this frequency, the stronger the signal becomes in the collective field. You subscribing isn't passive consumption. It's active participation in a shift that's happening through you, not just to you. So here you are, Group 11, receiving confirmation of what you've been suspecting, but couldn't validate through conventional channels. You've recognized yourself in these words, not because I'm telling you something new, but because I'm naming something you've been living without language for. These aren't descriptions of possibilities. They're mirrors reflecting what's already true in you, already operating in your experience, already evident in how your reality has been transforming, even when you couldn't explain why. Trust what's moving through you right now as these concepts land. Trust the recognition, the resonance, the subtle or not so subtle shift in your body as you hear your experience named accurately for perhaps the first time. This isn't just another video in the algorithm. This is your consciousness encountering a reflection of itself in the external world. And that encounter matters more than you might realize in this moment. It's a confirmation from the quantum field itself that you're not imagining what you've been experiencing. Your journey through the darkness, through the questioning, through the isolation that felt unbearable at times, all of it makes complete sense from this vantage point. Every detour was directing you toward this recognition. Every moment of confusion was clearing space for this clarity. Every time you felt completely lost, you were actually being found by the version of yourself you're becoming now. The one who doesn't need maps because you've learned to navigate by internal knowing. The shift you've been sensing, the electricity in ordinary moments, the synchronicities that feel too precise to be random, they're not signs that something is coming. They're evidence that something has already arrived. You've stepped into your actual frequency, and reality is responding to that frequency the way it always does, by reflecting it back to you in increasingly undeniable ways. The external world is catching up to the internal transformation that's been building for longer than you consciously realized. Group 11. Your timing is not early or late. It's exact. Your path is not unfolding despite the delays and detours. It's unfolding through them, using them, requiring them as essential elements of the specific preparation you needed. Everything that felt like breakdown is revealing itself as breakthrough. Everything that seemed like an ending was actually a beginning disguised as death so it could fully transform. Everything that felt like chaos was just outdated structures dissolving to make space for new forms that match your current frequency. If this message is activating something in you, consider returning to it tomorrow morning. Let it recalibrate your frequency at the start of your day. Or share it with someone who's been walking this path alone, someone who needs to know they're part of Group 11. When you share these concepts, you're not just passing along information, you're creating an energetic ripple that accelerates both your embodiment and their awakening, strengthening the collective field we're all building together. You are exactly where you need to be, not in some spiritual platitude sense that dismisses the difficulty of what you've been through, but in the quantum sense that this moment, this recognition, this alignment could only happen now, could only arrive after everything that came before it prepared you to receive it without distorting it through old frameworks. You're exactly who you need to be, not who you were trying to become, not who others expected, but who you actually are when everything that isn't you falls away. And before we close this transmission, I want you to do one final thing. Below in the comments, drop one word, just one, the word that captures the energy or intention or transformation you're consciously choosing as you move forward from this moment. Not a word you think sounds spiritual or impressive, the word that actually represents what's alive in you right now. This isn't a quiz or a test. It's an energetic signature to the quantum field. It's you marking this moment as significant, as chosen, as the beginning of consciously operating as what you are, rather than wondering about it. And if you haven't already, subscribe now. Not to stay informed, but to stay coherent. Not to consume content, but to remain connected to this frequency, this conversation, this movement that's happening through all of us who are part of this shift. The more of us who consciously align with this, who choose to operate from our actual frequency instead of inherited patterns, the more reality itself shifts to reflect that possibility to others. You subscribing is you participating in collective transformation, not just personal growth. Everything is about to make perfect sense, not because life becomes simple or challenges disappear, but because you're about to experience what it's like to navigate from inner knowing instead of external guidance. And that changes absolutely everything. Now, there's something else happening that you need to understand about this timing, about why you're recognizing yourself as Group 11 right now. The field itself is under quantum observation, and your next moves are being amplified in ways you haven't experienced before. Every choice you make from this frequency creates exponential effects. Watch, you're under quantum observation. Your next move decides everything. To understand how the field is responding to your coherence right now and what this amplification phase means for your manifestations.